There are two qualities that every person needs in order to make it safely and successfully through this life. There are other qualities, of course, but these two are of extreme importance. One of them is courage. Not to be afraid. The other is not to minimize yourself, to have confidence. Courage and confidence are needed by everyone. Years ago, when I first became a minister, I think I couldn't have been over 23, 24 years of age. I went one Sunday to preach in the chapel of Wesleyan University at Middletown, Connecticut. I think in those days they required chapel attendance on Sunday because I had a full house. After the service was over, I was taken home for dinner by an elderly professor whom everyone up there at that time seemed to venerate. It's been so long ago that I have forgotten his name, but I've not forgotten him. After a good dinner, we went in and sat before the fire on that bitter, cold February Sunday afternoon. And he said to me, "Son, before you go, I'd like to say something to you. I have been working with students all my professional life. And I find that so many of them are lacking in two important qualities. And you're not much beyond that student age yourself. So I want to say to you, get courage and keep it, get confidence and never let it go." And he handed me a little book entitled Courage by J.M. Barrie, which has been in my library ever since. That was the wise advice of a mellow, urbane, philosophical Christian gentleman. Then I noticed the other day in the newspaper the death of one of the greatest figures we ever had in New York, a man named Robert Moses. Died at 92. He has been acclaimed as the greatest builder America ever produced. And that in his day and generation he had more to do with the development of the urban life of the United States than any other person. He was first appointed to the state government in 1916, and he was still on the governmental payroll when he died at 92, which ought to be the envy of a great many politicians. He left this city 592 parks. He left the Lincoln Center Cultural Complex. He left the United Nations building. When he became a public official, there were 39 states that didn't have one single park. 29 states. When he passed away, they had 3.5 million acres of parkland. His name is on the great parks of the state of New York. He left this city with 35 marvelous highways, so that the highway system of New York City is greater than that of Los Angeles. Tremendous personality. One day I got a telephone call from him, and he said, Reverend, I want to talk with you, and I'd like to ask you if you'd be so courteous to come down to my office, because I have some maps and things that I couldn't very well lug up to your office. Will you do that? I went down. They accused him of being a personification of the Emperor Titus, who built ancient Rome. And when I was in his office, the walls were lined with maps of what New York City was going to become. I didn't know about this Titus business, but I said, you know, you remind me of a Roman emperor building a city. He said, that's what my critics call me, Titus. Now I said, Doctor, I've got to give you some bad news. We want to put the greatest highway we've yet built across Manhattan Island. And it's going to go between 30th Street and 29th Street. And it's going to take in all the territory that lies between those two streets. Now, he said, the only thing that gives me pause is your church there on the corner. I don't like to lay my hands on the house of God. But he said, I just wondered, I figure you as a progressive young fella, and that you like innovation. Whereupon he was softening me up, I realized. He said, you know, we've got a better neighborhood where your church ought to be. And I just wondering how you might respond to the offer of a nice piece of land adjacent to New York University in Washington Square. And we'll give you that land free. Think of that. And that land is worth a lot of money. And I said to him, how much extra will you give me to build the church with? He said, now you're talking business. You're not talking like a preacher. You're now talking business. Well, I said, if you were in my business, you'd know you have to be a businessman. Well, he said, I'd have to take that up with the power that is. And I said, so would I. I'd have to take it up with the church, and I don't believe they'd go for it. Because that church has been there ever since 1854. He says, you never talk antiquity, it's progress. Well, I came back and I laid it before the elders and deacons, and their lack of enthusiasm was noticeable. Whatever happened to the project, I was never sure whether this little incident stopped it or whether there wasn't enough money. I think it was the latter. But in my various conversations with Robert Moses, and I had several, he made a profound impression on me. He said the thing to do is to get something done if you believe in it. Never let anything stop it. But something stopped that one. But in most cases, he succeeded. I said to him one day, you are one of the great figures of our time. You're called the greatest builder in American history. How did you become this? He said, the answer to that is very simple. I do my homework. And when I'm convinced that a project is right, I won't let anybody stand in my way. He said, not the governor, not the president, not the mayor, nobody. And I said, that takes courage. He says the word is guts. And add to that confidence in yourself that you know and you are right. And then he came over and he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, what would you add to that? I said, how about prayer to God? He said, that's what I wanted you to say. Courage, confidence, and prayer to God. So in my personal experience, these two men, the professor at Wesleyan and this great builder, both said, courage and confidence are essential ingredients in life. Now, how do you get them? You get them by faith, by the constant reading of the Bible, by practice, and by what you might call a spiritual inner build-up. If you come to church every Sunday and are re-inspired in your faith, that would be 52 inoculations of faith built into you. And then if you read the Bible every morning and every night and you pray and you walk with Jesus Christ, you build faith into you.